What if love was the boldest form of leadership? Amber Mikesell left a high-level role to lead from the heart, breaking taboos, sparking real connection, and proving that true leadership starts with inner truth. Are you ready to rethink what it means to lead? Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Are you ready to create real change in your leadership, your career, your life? Join me for a complimentary Lead and Thrive session, a 60-minute one-on-one strategy session where we will discuss your specific needs and map out the next steps to lead yourself and others powerfully. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Visit transformyourperformance.com/Lead Thrive session to book your Lead and Thrive session today. Let's work together to make it happen. Welcome to Rise to Lead. With me today is a beloved guest, Amber Mikesell from Arizona. Amber, what a joy to have you on. So happy that you can be here with us today.
I'm so grateful to be with you again, Regina. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you again. I am also extremely grateful for the chance you gave me to be on this Rivera show, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a while. But before we do, Amber, I'm quickly going to introduce you. So for those of you who don't know her yet, although she has a huge audience, Amber Mikesell is a globally recognized visionary leader and educator, the founder and chief lead minister of Rivera, an organization igniting a global movement of heart-centered leadership. Love that, by the way, you know that. Her career spans 113 countries and has impacted over 1 million lives. Wow. Amber blends ancient wisdom and modern science to empower human potential. She holds a bunch of certifications that allow her to speak to the science and spirituality of love as a catalyst for healing and connection. And there's a little bit more detail in the description to the podcast, of course, so definitely read up on that too. Again, I'm so delighted to have this conversation with you, Amber. It was so lovely to be on your Rivera Sermons show, which actually aired this month with millions of views already, as you usually have. And it's just so beautiful that you built this very big audience and can provide value to so many people.
Well, thank you for the wonderful introduction. And, ultimately, for me, it is the heart-opening understanding that so many individuals right now in such a chaotic world are still saying, no, there's another way, and being into a community where there's so much love and so much desire to lead a life with love and to lead whatever they're leading in their lives from that space of heart-centered connection. And then tuning into your show to say, okay, show me other ways. Help me see how you do it, Regina, and what services or tools you can offer me to continue to understand how to do that. So that shows that there's a world hungry for love and hungry for resources to propagate that out into a world when we get shown so many avenues where it's being told to us that it's not that. So that's
Absolutely. Yeah, so absolutely, Amber. You literally just said what I was going to say. There's such an appetite for this content right now. I mean, there probably always has been, but now it's even bigger because it's easy to get confused in the current world, and there's an overload of information. We don't know what to trust, who to trust. So, what can we trust, right? Can we trust love? And the world wants love. So, it's beautiful to see, on the other hand, that people really respond to this message, don't you think?
Do. And they've been hurt so often by people promising love. And then it's almost like a bait and switch. So to find individuals who truly are being unconditionally loving, saying, no, come as you are, exactly where you are. And there is no judgment because you're exactly where you're meant to be. You need to grow from the exact space that you are. It's like planting a seed, right? We don't dig it up every 5 minutes to see, are you growing? Are you growing? Are you the seed that you're meant to be? We plant the seed and then we nurture it and we tend to it and we care for it. And we don't stand over it and say, grow, grow, grow. We trust that it's going to be exactly the plant that it's meant to be and blossom when it's meant to blossom. And that's the community that we've created through Suivera. And we just nurture and tend to every soul exactly where they are, exactly as they are. So it's been so
Yeah.
much.
Absolutely. And I want to know more about that path and what you led you up to that for sure, because not everybody listening knows about this yet. Uh, I Before we do though, I wanted to quickly mention something that I heard you say, right? This unconditional love. Because anything that's not unconditional love, is that really love? Maybe it's just approval and not true love. So maybe there is actually only unconditional love. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think it's such a wonderful dialogue to have because love is unconditional love is so multifaceted,
Mhm.
right? And to get to the point where you have that depth of unconditional love, I feel like we as humans go through all of those different tiers.
Mhm.
The I need to love myself through you to love me tier, because then that cracks us open a little bit to understand, well, wait a second, I don't feel whole inside when I need to love myself through you to love me. So then an awareness sparks that that doesn't really fit for me now. But we almost need to navigate that to know that that doesn't fit. So unconditional love really for me, and all I can ever do, because I'm only in here, I'm not in like Regina or anyone else who's listening to this, but I know for me, it is almost like I have to go through those different stages that are all encompassed in unconditional love. That's the point. It's unconditional. It includes all of these things, but it's more than all of these things. So once I experience it, my awareness of love expands using all of these different variables of love so that I grow deeper and more expansive in love to know that more is possible. But I don't know that if I don't have all the building blocks, is really how I've been able to experience it for myself.
That is very beautifully said, and I'm sure it resonates for a lot of people. So, Amber, you walked a very unique and powerful path so far, right? Because not everybody just dares to talk about love. Almost as if it's, especially in business, as if it's taboo, right? So, what are some of the maybe key moments or turning points that led you to create Sweetwera? What's your motivation, and how do these turning points, or whatever you want to focus on here, reflect the deeper why behind your work today?
That is such a soul moment in each turning point, really. I had a life where I really knew since I was a young person that my reason for being here was all centered around love. I just didn't know how, right? I think so many of us, if we feel back through our lives, we really know what our soul is here to experience or express. And then somehow along the way, we start to go, but maybe we get this shiny key syndrome. I don't know what else to call it. It's like, ooh, but there's that, and there's that, and there's that. And so I navigated that myself. And in a world that tells us that large positions in companies and large paychecks are actually what success looks like, of course, I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe that's what I should be doing because that seems to be what makes the people around me feel very happy. So I navigated toward that and I watched as people were utilized as assets and not humans contributing to a greater cause. And it crushed my heart and it crushed my soul because it felt very counter to what I was actually here to do, which was express love and encourage love. Because no matter how much I attempted to do that in that structure, it was not received. It was, you don't talk about, as you said, it's taboo. We don't
Mm.
talk about love in the business place because that could cross lines and HR could get involved. And no matter what, somebody could take that out of context. I'm like, oh, okay, I won't do that then. I don't want to upset someone.
Yeah.
And then there came a point when I was in a meeting and I was told that I had to let someone on my staff go for speaking their heart.
Wow.
And it crushed me to a level where I had to look myself in the mirror and say, who am I in this environment? Who am I as a soul, not as a person only, but as a soul? Can I continue to be in this environment and honor who I am as a soul and what my soul is here to do? And I couldn't. And I walked in the next day and I put in my resignation. And mind you, I was in a high level executive position that I had worked so hard to get to. And everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, are you kidding me? What are you doing? But my soul mattered to me more in that moment, and love mattered more to me in that moment than anything else. And that was the pivotal point for me. So,
Yeah, that is such an interesting story because, I've been on a few other podcasts lately where we actually talked about also the fact that sometimes what makes sense to other people, to what makes sense to us, sorry, but doesn't make sense to other people and doesn't have to make sense to other people. It doesn't even have to make sense to our mind. It just needs to make sense to our heart in that moment, doesn't it?
and you
And
have
go
enough.
ahead.
You have to be brave enough to honor it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we both are advocates of heart-centered leadership or heart leadership, uh, leading from the heart, right? In fact, it's in my podcast description. And of course, I know it's one of your central topics. So why have you chosen or why did you choose back then, right? Heart leadership and really, in your own way, right? I'm not talking about corporate now necessarily, but why have you chosen heart leadership as one of your central topics in your work?
When we look at every human being, we're leading something, whether it's our own lives, we're a key component of leading a family. We are leading our responsibilities within our position at work. We're all leading something in some way. And when we do, so often we get caught in thinking about, am I doing it well enough? Or our inner critic gets in there and we get caught in the 80% of the negative thoughts that go through our head and that self-esteem that gets pulled down or however we cycle in that. But when we lead from our hearts, when we use that feel that we have and that heart coherence where we connect with one another, and we start leading from that place of soul knowing instead of negative brain bias that gets us caught, then everything starts to shift. And we start to not only wonder and seek to understand what am I here to actually experience in my life, we start to also wonder, what is it that I'm here connected with Regina to have as an experience in this moment? And how can it not only serve me, but serve Regina? And suddenly all of this disconnection that we're experiencing in the world starts to fade to the background, and we start to feel into the connection. So heart leadership can quickly change things if we simply settle into it and allow.
Yes, it's so underrated. I I actually just talked to someone probably 2 days ago, where we talked about different people, who teach different methods, and we talked about authenticity also in that context. Because some people, they preach something, but they don't really live it, right? I think we've all seen people like that. So she was saying, and I can only echo that. She was saying there is no love in that person and how he talks and how he shows up. And I can find that love in that other person. So that's why I feel more drawn to this work at this time, you know? So yeah, it definitely is something that it's not always obvious at first sight. But as you get to know someone a bit more and observe them a bit more, you can distinguish, okay, is that really still right for me? Is the love there, or is there something that's like a smoke screen, that you see, right?
Exactly. And that is a resonance of the heart. I
Hmm.
would,
Yeah,
and you had talked about, and part of why I'm so drawn to you is that very thing. You show up exactly as you are with this open heart and this open desire to be in service of those who are seeking the service. And you can feel that resonance. You can honestly know that you care when you say you care. And there's such a different feeling, and that comes from leadership of the heart, not thinking, how can I get this person to buy my product?
absolutely. It comes from that pure intention, in a way, you could call it, right? Yes, it is. I think it's also in my case in the past when I first was literally thrown into a leadership role by surprise, right out of the blue, that helped me in that moment to show that I truly cared for not just the team that I was leading and managing, but also the other people in the office, my peers, the partner group, whoever that was, and that I was coming from that place because I didn't really have any leadership background at the time. I was very young. And I think, when you do that, that helps so much because people feel it. It's
Yeah.
just like they will help you because they know that you're coming from that place.
And our productivity within our organization skyrockets because they feel like they're part of something. Everyone desires to feel like they're part of something, especially if it's something bigger than what they feel they could do independently or individually. And then they see their ideas come to fruition through that project, and they feel a sense of ownership. And camaraderie comes as part of that, and friendships are built within the office. Think about it. We spend so much of our time wherever we are, like working or connecting. So why wouldn't we want that to be heart-led and felt like our voice matters? And then innovation soars because we call it heartstorming. So instead of thinking and brainstorming and all the brain power that goes into it, and we're only focused on business-oriented things, we're heartstorming and we're getting into that place of pure conscious download and innovation. And so you're doing things that nobody else is doing because you're not thinking about it from a limited mindset. So there's so much when we take on this heart-centered leadership approach that starts to just expand and people get excited to be around you and to work in your organizations. It's really kind of fun. So,
Yeah. And don't we all want more fun in the workplace, whatever that workplace looks like, right? Everybody wants to have more fun. I mean, that's when we become enthusiastic about it's at least one of the factors, right? There are other factors, of course, when we become more enthusiastic about our work and we really want to contribute our best ideas. So I was actually, so you started talking about this brainstorming process now, and I'm a bit curious because I have an idea of what that can look like, but maybe not everybody does. So would you explain that a little bit more to us all?
absolutely. So within our organization, Suivera, we will eventually get to the point of brainstorming, but we don't start there. We always start with what we call heartstorming.
Hmm.
So we know that we're going to do a new initiative. We come together with meditation usually or some kind of connection of the heart center first. So we drop into that. And from that place of us all being connected from our hearts, we start to ask ourselves, what impact will whatever this perceived initiative have on our organization? Like what is our why? What is this that we're doing? What's the feel behind it? Then what impact will it have on our team? Like, is this something we feel compelled even to do? What's the feel? Then what impact will it have on our consumer or our members? And then what impact would it have rippling out onto the world? Not even about like the details or the brainstorming or whatever, just like
Hmm.
conceptually. We want to understand the feels around it. Because if those things we don't feel are going to have this positive, amazing, exciting impact from a feel perspective, then why would we even put the time or the effort into starting to brainstorm all of the ideas around it? It has to have that sincere catch fire. Oh my gosh, this is passion, this is creation in motion. And if it doesn't, then our team's not going to desire to really put their energy into it. And so innovation is going to go, like really, nobody's going to desire to do it. And that's a lot of their lives spent. The only thing we can't create more of really is time in our lives. So why would I desire to spend their precious life on something they don't feel committed to or fired up about? So we're going to heartstorm on
Hmm.
that. And that
Right.
process, and it's amazing to watch how the things that truly light up our organization then do have a ripple effect and is what lights up our community, and it has such a positive ripple effect even on those out in the world who may never know that it exists, because people who are touched by it then are like lit up by it and go out and have positive. So that's really what we call heartstorming.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And did I ask you about brainstorming or hearts? I meant heartstorming in any case. Maybe I said brainstorming and I meant heartstorming, but anyway, you answered it perfectly.
And we do get back to brainstorming, right? Because even with
Yeah,
all, you have to run your business. So then you have to go back to the tactical. Well, how does this unfold as
yeah,
a business flow?
yeah.
But none of that'll matter if it doesn't have the heart part.
Right. And I love that. So that's a really concrete and tangible almost example of leading from the heart and how it changes the outcome. Right.
Yeah,
So for everybody involved, really, not just you and your team, but really everyone.
everyone. And it really has made a huge impact. We are a nonprofit religious entity, and everyone's like, well, how does that impact an organization like yours? How do you see ROI? Well, ultimately, donorship going up. We still have the opportunity to sell courses and things that are directly tied to what we do, books. I have a book
Mhm.
right now, Silence Your Inner Critic, that ties directly into our message. There's still the opportunity for that to ripple out and for us to take that to our community or to the world as a whole. So it's still the same. And because it's so like fun and people are caught on fire by it, it still has the same impact. So if it can do that for a church, imagine what it can do for a business.
And it's an interfaith organization, right? I just want to clarify this because people wonder, okay, uh, what it exactly is. Okay, so um, let me think about this question that I want to ask. So, you know, I often get asked myself, and I'm curious what you have to say about this. Many leaders rely on logic, especially in decision making, and on facts and blah, blah, blah. So, what are the risks of how can I ask this best? What are the risks of leaving the heart out of leadership when you make an important decision?
Mm, Great question. I was part of that process in my early career, and I watched the impact as large companies that I was part of actually restructured and merged and restructured and merged because it made sense financially. It made sense from a bottom line standpoint. Data proved that it was the best option for shareholders, for they would presume consumers, but it wasn't what consumers desired. They forgot the question of how will this impact those that are on our teams? Do they desire this? How will it impact our consumers? Do they truly desire this merger? Are they asking for us to grow in this way or to add these services? And ultimately, it caused the rapid decline of both organizations through the merger. Staff left in droves, so they weren't there to actually support the organizations through the mergers. They had no idea the softwares would not merge together seamlessly. So they had technology issues that then impacted the customers, and the customers left in droves. So when you only use logic, you're not really able to see the whole picture because on paper it looked beautiful. But you didn't use your heart to say, how is this going to impact everyone all along the way? And so you miss a lot. That's what I would have to say about it.
That is a very compelling example indeed, because sometimes, it's a little hard to explain because it seems so intangible. But when we have like a concrete example where you see the outcome of when you did not use that heart-centered approach, then of course that is proof that it does pay off in so many ways, right? So how then do leaders, in your experience, right, unintentionally suppress heart wisdom, and what could help them start trusting it again?
Yeah. So I know even in that example, the leaders really desired to do it.
Mhm.
It costs a little more. It takes more time, more focus, more energy. And so up front, it feels like we don't have the time. The budget isn't there. So let's just move with what the current numbers say. They suppress it because they don't desire to be the one to outspeak and say it's going to save us more in the longer term than
Mhm.
it would right now. But I can't prove that because we don't have any other organization who's done it. So let's be the first. The thing is, somebody has to go first. Now we have enough organizations who have been willing to kind of be the first to show it. We have at least 2 or 3 that I know of out there that have been willing to have a heart executive on their board. Claude Silver, way to go, Claude. Proud of you for being willing to say, no, I won't do this if I don't have a heart-based approach within the organization. So we have those pioneers who are out there saying, let's do this. So begin to step in and use that as your data and your research. But it is scary if you're the first one. And I feel like that's somewhat what's suppressed because it is scary to be the first or the second or the third, especially in larger organizations,
Mhm.
could really push back a little bit harder.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a certain consciousness or that is just very ingrained, and yeah, it's a little bit hard to make it through the fog there. Yeah, absolutely. I totally get it. But somebody has to be the trailblazer, the initiator, so to speak. And yeah, it's always been like that. So maybe that then creates a huge wave. And wouldn't it be nice to see that in the future that you've created that wave, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I know, Amber, that you're all about finding one's heart's voice, right? Uh, but here's the thing, it's not always easy for people to hear that voice of their hearts. And when they do, to even trust it. And the inner critic often speaks quite loudly, right? So what do you recommend when the inner critic is running the show? And how can we find our heart's voice and really hear it and distinguish it?
Thank you. This is such a passion for me because it speaks directly to the book that I launched in March, which is Silence Your Inner Critic. As I've been helping individuals across the world for years now, it was the recurring theme that 80% of negative thoughts that individuals were just constantly cycling through. And then the 18% that were just neutral thoughts, leaving only 2% positive thoughts. It is a heartbreaking number, really, when we really factor in where our thoughts are leading us. So it does really take us out of that heart. So Silence Your Inner Critic has a ton of tools, and it allows you to journey into the why and how to begin to break the cycle. But one of the clearest and most certain ways to begin to get into that heart center, to just create the space, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, is to create that what we call synaptic pause, so that you can quiet the brain for like half a second to feel into your heart. And breath is such a profound way to do that. Such a profound way, because you're literally taking your attention from your brain as you breathe in and into your heart as you fill your lungs and you feel them. So if individuals can just take half a moment to take those 3 deep breaths that so many people talk about, and as they do, focus on how the breath travels from the nose down into the chest and fills the heart. Then pause for a moment and feel that heart center, and then breathe out. then you're literally bringing your focus from your brain down into your heart, and you're pausing that negative cycle that's going on and getting out of that inner critic that's telling you what you can and can't do, and into that infinite heart space where you know that anything is possible if you just allow it. So many tools you can use, but that is a quick one. That is
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It's available anywhere.
Yeah. Yes, right, at any time. You don't need any specific physical tools for it. You can always do it. Absolutely. So, yeah, so you've been talking about thoughts, and of course, a lot of those thoughts aren't even our thoughts, right? They're literally being fed to us like all the time, right? Through the internet, through our environment, through TV, through whatever we consume, and even don't consume. It's as if, we don't know what our next thought will be most of the time, do we?
No, no, it's comes up from past childhood experiences, or you barely see something and it gets triggered from some other experience you had 2 days ago. It is so interesting how our psyche works. And
Yeah,
so,
even from other people.
yeah,
Like sometimes we think, just like we pick up the energy and some emotions. I personally was for a long time dealing with a lot of sadness that I did not know where it came from. Despite all the digging and all the, childhood, whatever experiences, I certainly did not what we usually call a traumatic childhood. Now, of course, know that a trauma is any suppressed emotion. So sometimes we don't use the word in the truly right sense. But here's the thing: there's a lot of sadness that's not even mine or there was, right? Until I started to transmute it. And the same happens with our thoughts. They're not sometimes even ours
I would agree with you.
because they're
So,
all part of consciousness.
yes,
Sorry, go ahead.
collective and even ancestral consciousness,
Yeah,
right? So it is a wild web we weave. What?
absolutely. We're very creative with it for sure. So, yeah. So, if you had to name any other practice or maybe a question that can help us shift from self-doubt to greater self-alignment when that inner critic flares up, what else can you share with us?
Love the question because it's one I ask myself a lot when the inner critic starts going crazy.
Mhm.
And it's what would love do? Because the
Yeah.
moment we start to ask ourselves in any given moment, what would love do right now? Then that brings us back to what I feel is all of our true nature, which is love. And we start to really settle into that, again, that heart space. So if we start to get frustrated or negative thoughts start flying at us, okay, what would love do right now with any of this in this moment?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it also is that link between heart self-leadership and healing the inner critic in a way, right? So, or maybe not link, but the tool that we can use as part of heart self-leadership to heal that inner critic that we all have inside of us.
Yes, very much.
So, for leaders who struggle to be compassionate with themselves, where do you recommend they start?
Yeah. Every person is so unique, from the way that we learn to the way that we utilize tools for personal development. So that is such a challenging question, and not one that I know I could actually blanket answer.
Mhm.
But for someone who maybe is just struggling with self-compassion as a whole, I would say make certain that you find a technique, just find one. Don't go out and feel like you have to create some arsenal of techniques for yourself because you have to have this whole treasure trove of things. Find one tool that you know you can pull out whenever you are kicking your own butt and you don't have that moment of self-compassion, and use it like a Swiss Army knife and get in there and make certain that you can get back into that place of, don't think it's going to just automatically take you up to full confidence. Get back to that place of neutrality where you know, okay, I've got my feet under me. So that's what I tend to most recommend, because we always want to go from one extreme to the other. I want to go from having my self-esteem or being critical of myself to just being the most positive. And I want this whole group of tools that everybody can use that fits my personality perfectly too. But unfortunately, we're also multifaceted and unique, that we need to tailor our own, and it needs to start with the first tool. And we need to be able to get ourselves to neutral so our feet can be under us, so that then we can get to positive, is how I would generally say it to anyone I'm coaching.
Absolutely, that makes total sense. And sometimes I think it can also help if we cannot think of something in the moment, maybe just to think about, okay, how would we be compassionate with our best friend or with somebody we love? And then say, okay, how can we do the same with ourselves? And why would we not? Because usually there's not really a great reason for the why. Right. Yeah. So, how has Vivera specifically shaped your own relationship with your inner guidance versus your inner criticism?
What a beautiful question. So with Suivera, it is just such a vessel for non-judgment and welcoming everyone as they are, and providing tons of resources. And as you said, so many people will talk and preach, but then not practice what they preach. So it always has me looking inward and asking myself, am I being the living reflection of the very organization that I am here representing? So am I being unconditionally loving to myself, non-judgmental when I am being human? Because we all have human moments. It's not like
Absolutely.
it's not like I am without fault. So in those moments when I have that, like Austin and I, my partner, have a disagreement, am I able to hold that space of compassion that you were just talking about for both myself and for him? And so my inner critic, of course, wants to go, well, wait a second. You are leading this global organization where you're talking about all this unconditional love. If you just had a disagreement with your partner, are you being loving? But of course, sometimes navigating disagreements with respect and honor and care is the most loving thing you can do. But my inner critic would have me questioning myself. So I have to be that reflection of my own discussion within, and hold that compassion and that care, and be the representation of the very thing I'm bringing forward. And I take that very, very, I'm a steward of something beautiful. So I have to take it very seriously and with honor.
Absolutely. Yes. And coming from a place of love doesn't mean there's never going to be conflict or disagreement. It's just not what it means. And there's never going to be judgment because we need judgment to survive as humans, right? We do need it as well to secure ourselves and to stay safe in a way. All these things, yes, they have their place, but how do we navigate in those situations, and how do we use them, right? And how do we move from one place to the next so that we can actually make progress together and then get to the next phase, which hopefully means some sort of agreement again, for example, right?
Good to know from you. What do you consider judgment versus discernment?
Oh, you know what? Yes, there is a different connotation, of course, of the two words, discernment, judgment. But I also believe that it depends always on how you define the words, right? So when you say judgment, well, I could judge a situation, and that's totally fine. Like I judge if the situation is risky or not, right? I judge what can I do? What are my options in this situation? So that's just an example. And then yes, in that situation, I can discern potential risks. But maybe first I need to judge the situation in order to discern the risks. So it depends oftentimes a lot. I love to dissect words too and to really think about them. So that's a great question. And I do believe that sometimes it's about, okay, how do we define the word? Because there are potentially different, several different definitions.
Yes. And so it's so helpful too when we talk about having any kind of a disagreement. And the reason I ask is exactly
Mhm.
that. Sometimes words mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
And disagreements then happen because your view of a word and my view of a word is so different. And I presume that your definition means the same as mine. And then suddenly a disagreement pops up. And instead, if we just were curious and we sought that clarity, then the disagreement wouldn't even occur. And that's also, to me, a key trait of heart leadership, coming at things with curiosity instead of immediately getting upset and saying, well, she used that word that way and she knows that it means that. Now let's just have like this big disagreement over it. So just being curious and asking and seeking to understand is so key.
Curiosity is one of my favorite leadership traits. I can tell you that. It's so, so important. Absolutely. Also, being aware of conversational blind spots. And actually, the meaning of words could be such a blind spot too. Usually, we think of emotions and fear and this type of thing when we talk about blind spots. But of course, yes, the meaning of words and how we interpret the different words could be a blind spot too.
Yeah.
Totally. Yes. So, what is the best place for people to find your book and your shows, of course, and to connect with you?
Oh, thank you for asking that. There are Well, the key way to get a hold of us is at suivera.org. That's suivera.org. You'll be able to find Silence Your Inner Critic. We are now a two-time bestseller, so that is amazing. So excited.
So cool.
Launched March 4th, and so to hit two bestseller lists was pretty cool. And that book is on there. You can find it anywhere books are sold, but you can also get to it quickly off suivera.org. You can also find me on my website, which is ambermikesell.com. You can see all of the upcoming events we have. I am on the book tour right now. So there are events scheduled all over the place. We just came back from Europe where we did some book tour stuff. Now we're headed off to Sacramento, California. We'll be in Texas next. I think after that, Dallas and Houston. So all over the place. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's the life I love too. So definitely huge congratulations. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Is there anything else that you would like to absolutely share that you're burning to share that I haven't asked you?
Yes, and that is thank you for all that you do in this world. Just your heart, your light, your spirit, your work in general. It has been such a gift to get to know you, to have two conversations with you now at this capacity, and to just share you with our community. So I'm very honored, Regina, for all that you are and all that you do.
Oh, thank you so much, Amber. I'm so delighted to have you on, and again, also to have these conversations and maybe more in the future. So again, very grateful for this conversation and for any previous ones and exchanges. Thanks so much for joining us on Rise to Lead, and this has been lovely. And to all our listeners, thanks for tuning in. I'm so grateful for you as well. Watch out for the next episode with yet another amazing guest. And remember to share this episode widely. It's so needed in the world right now and going forward. Until next time. Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you like this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.